we're doing a time management and productivity lesson today for no reason other than the fact that time management is my lifeblood, and as someone that is wholeheartedly obsessed with it, I am making you also be obsessed with it. As I've always said, we all have goals to reach and we all have to work, so you might as well work the best you can while you're working so that you can rest more and play more and start being kind to yourself in the way that you go for things you want. Okay, this is the modern day. This is now. I filmed this video before I moved out of my old house. I filmed it at the same time as the last productivity video I did, which has done insanely well and everyone seems to love it, and I'm so happy because these are things that I've been literally living by for years. So if you haven't watched that, watch that one first because that's like the first half. But I just wanted to say now, before you watch the rest of the video, at the end of this video, we are doing another planner release. The last video coincided with the last planner release. The waitlist ended up getting 55,000 people. So we decided to do another planner release. So I thought, why bring back the same designs when you can just fuck shit up and come out with more? So I am going to talk through that at the end of this video. The pre-order starts tomorrow and it's only going to be 24 hours, so it's back for 24 hours only. Hope you get one. Skip to the don't skip to the end of the video. Why am I telling people to skip to the end of the video? I haven't spent so much time on this. But yeah, end of the video for planner information. So whistle stop tour, we are going to talk about prioritization, organization, and then the actual doing of the productive work. As I always disclaim, you do not need to be productive all the time. It goes without saying, so please don't use it as a reason to hate. We know we don't all need to be productive all the time. However, we do know that we all need to work, and just saying sleep when you're dead is not very helpful. If we're gonna have to work, we might as well do it right, and we might as well get the most out of it possible. If you don't want to get the most out of it possible, that is so fine, and also well aware of the fact that even if you do absolutely everything, you might still not be able to get the most out of it possible. But in this house, we do believe in time management, and we do believe in productivity as a form of self-care. Okay? So if you don't believe in that, back off. So first things first, learning how to manage your time is one of the most important things, in my opinion, of your life. You need to be able to have good methods so that when you feel super overwhelmed and when you have loads on your plate and when your workload starts to increase and everything's coming at you from all angles, that doesn't overwhelm you. And it's natural, like it's always going to overwhelm you. I get overwhelmed every week. It's honestly my drug. But you need to have systems in place that mean you understand when that's happening and you understand then how to control it by planning and time managing to make yourself be able to do it all and not feel like... I also feel like time management is super helpful because so much of our life is work now that it's really good at helping to actually put things in that you want to do as well. Like if you want to be spending more time with your friends, if you want to be trying to stick to the gym more, if you want to be learning a language or learning tennis or like whatever it might be, actually being able to time manage and put those things in allows yourself to be able to prioritize personal life just as much as work. So don't think of this as like just a how to be better at work. Becoming better at working and time management is all the same as becoming better at the rest of it, because you cannot have one without the other. You are not just going to be a workhorse. You need to be able to get good at prioritizing your homely bits as well. Homely bits? Personal life would be a normal way of saying that. Obviously, normal caveat, these methods are not going to work for everyone. Try what works for you, throw them in the bin, yell at me on Instagram, cancel me. Just try. Like, just sprinkle a little bit here and there. It might be time blocking, it might be a to-do table, it might be any of these things. Just have like a little go. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But these work for me, and that's the only point of view I can talk from. Okay. Number one, you cannot do any of the rest of this without number one. Number one is the ability to prioritize and learning prioritization. You need to work out a method of prioritization that is so effective for you that it becomes second nature. Especially if you have ADHD, then understanding systems that are in place to help you understand what to prioritize is really important. Then the second thing to mention is the idea of efficiency versus effectiveness. Okay, so effectiveness is doing things that get you closer to your goals, so right direction, and efficiency is performing a task in the most economic way possible. So the combination of efficiency and effectiveness is the answer. Like we talk about productivity, aka doing the most in the least amount of time possible, but actually effectiveness is so important. There's a very big difference between being busy and being productive. A lot of the time what I do to procrastinate is do tasks that are less hard, but actually they're probably less effective then. So it's actually understanding understanding that you have to be able to prioritize based on effectiveness too, and not just procrastinate by still doing things and being busy, but them not being the right things that you need to be doing to get you in the right direction. So before I talk to you about how to prioritize, I just want to emphasize how important prioritizing is. If you're not doing something, and if you're choosing not to have time to do something, this is sounding very girl bossy, hear me out. If you're not fitting something in, it's not a priority. And this needs to be caveated by saying that different people will be able to fit a lot less in. So I'm going to be able to fit quite a lot in because I have teams, I have an assistant, I have a cleaner, all of these different things that are really important to say. However, if you're looking at your week and you only have one extra thing to add in, the other things are technically not a priority. Even if you'd love to have those three things, you have to be able to understand like how many extra things you fit in. So for example, taking someone who is in their 20s, who has a job, wants to see their friends a lot, and wants to go to the gym, and wants to learn a language. If you're not fitting the time in to go to the gym or to learn a language, it is not a priority. That is fine. You just have to be fine with it not being a priority. Getting to the end of the month when your goal was to do X amount of your Duolingos and not doing it and getting frustrated isn't helpful. What's helpful is understanding that in that time you need to make things a priority that are a priority, and that might be understanding that you are only able to have half those amount of things be important, if that makes sense. So once you've understood that something isn't a priority, the next thing you need to decide is whether that's okay or whether you want to change that. Obviously, if you want to change that, start slotting it into your week when you're planning it at the beginning of the week. And if it's just like, do you know what, I wanted to start a language, but actually with seeing my friends and work and going to the gym, like I really don't have time to make another thing a priority, absolutely fine as well. Just understanding that and being aware of that is really important. Otherwise you constantly think you're a failure because you're constantly failing to fit it in, even though you'd never be able to fit it in with your current priorities anyway. So learning how to actually prioritize is really important, and this is one of those systems that I talked about. I did not invent this at all. This is the Eisenhower Method, and it is used very widely, but it is just a really helpful way of understanding how to prioritize. So if you're one of those people that looks at everything you should be doing and you don't know what you should be doing, let alone when, I strongly suggest you start doing the Eisenhower matrix at the beginning of your week, or just when you're in that decision-making process and you're finding it really hard to work out what you need to be doing. So when looking at your to-do list or your to-do table, putting them in an Eisenhower matrix helps for you to decipher whether things are urgent and important, and if they are urgent and important, then need to be something you're doing first. If they are important but not urgent, they're something that you're going to need to be scheduling. If they are urgent but not important, delegate is what it says, but like ultimately you're really not going to be able to delegate all the time. Like, I'm aware that you're not necessarily going to have someone who is below you in the hierarchy of your role, or an assistant, or any of these things. Sometimes delegating can be about using a freelancer if you are a freelancer and you can use someone on Fiverr instead of doing it yourself. Or what I like to say for that one, it's probably more about just like blitzing through it as fast as possible and just allocating an amount of time to do that. And then not urgent and not important, don't do it. You can just keep it a little in the corner of the list, like if you want to be able to get to it when you have a second, but ultimately you need to be able to like work out what is a priority and when, and this is a really helpful way to be able to do that. And if it's not urgent and it's not important, maybe you just need to do it in like a 10 minutes at the end of the day somewhere. A hint in terms of like procrastination is that the schedule and the delegate quadrant like boxes are probably the ones you're going to procrastinate with most, because they're the easiest to jump into, because either you feel a sense of urgency or it's really important, when actually you should be doing something in the urgent and important box first, but it's like a bit of a chore. Most people, I feel like after a few years of work, will do this matrix kind of like automatically, like you know what's urgent and important, and so you're gonna be able to prioritize based on that. But if that's not something that comes naturally to you, just use this matrix when you need to. Then next I want to talk about organization. So once you've got your tasks figured out in terms of like what you actually need to do, so any of the things that were in those top 3 quadrants of the Eisenhower matrix, you need to organize, and you need to be able to have good organization systems in place. I find that the most important part of organization is visibility and awareness. So I think you'll find that probably the times that you get most overwhelmed about what you have to do and like how much you have to do is because you don't have visibility over your calendar, you don't have visibility over your tasks, you don't have visibility over kind of like the action plan to put this into place, because ultimately if you looked at all of your tasks and slotted them in throughout the week, you'd start to feel a lot less stressed, because you're like, yeah, I can't do these 20 things now, but by the end of the week they will be done. So I really cannot stress enough that no matter how overwhelming all your to-dos are, you need to be able to see them. Otherwise you have no hope of getting them in. Like, how do you expect to be able to go through all of your to-dos without being able to see exactly what you have to do? Okay, step 1 of organisation. If you don't do this already, what the fuck? It concerns me. I have friends that don't do this, and I fear for their lives. Keep an electronic calendar. This may sound so stupid, but if you don't already keep an electronic calendar, I just don't understand how you expect to be organised. Like, maybe I'm not getting it, but keep a fucking electronic calendar. Put your friends' birthdays in there, put your important things in there, and start populating it. You don't need to populate every call and every work day. If you can integrate your personal and work calendar together, I really would advise you do that, because the sooner you start thinking of them not together, it sounds like very like capitalist nightmare to talk about like your work and personal life is the same, but I think delineating too much between the two actually makes it quite terrifying, because then it's like you're constantly trying to like do these two roles, whereas actually understanding that they're all one big role of your life is quite important, but that can be dependent on what works for you. I just use Google. It's linked to my Gmail, so it adds like some dinner reservations and stuff in there too, but put things in for September in 3 years time when your implant's about to run out. Like, just keep a fucking electronic calendar. You're an adult. When you know about something, put it in there. Even if it's your dog's birthday, or if it's remembering to book your smear test, or like any of the, just put it in the fucking calendar. It's really not that much. It will save you time. I know it sounds like a lot of work, 'cause it's a bit of a faff. It will save you time down the line. And I know there'll be some people sitting here watching this being like, please move on from this. This is obviously so obvious. And there'll be other people being like, keep an electronic calendar. What you can do on the Gmail one is you can separate it out between like personal and work, so you can like click between the two as well, which I absolutely love. And then step 2 is going to sound ridiculous if you found step 1 ridiculous, but it's to keep a paper calendar too. And that doesn't need to be like a calendar. It can be a planner, it can be ones like the one I make, it can be just a week view, any of them. Essentially, on a Sunday evening or a Monday morning, transfer it from the electronic calendar into the paper calendar, or into like, if you use like a PDF on your iPad or like whatever it might be, but transfer it, do something that moves it from electronic to actually like full week visibility, so you can look at it throughout the week. So for example, I did this quite loosely today, but by the way, this is a sample, we're using thicker paper. So like there's a full week view, and I've just put out like I'm going to a festival on Saturday, I've got a friend's birthday on Sunday, got like work from home here, key points like family dinner, this filming, like meetings, and then office, regular Tuesday office. Like you can, so it doesn't need to be like everything written out, but it needs, you just need to be really clear on the visibility for the week ahead. And this is not just about like duplicating calendars. This is quite an important task, I find, and you can just skip it. If you don't like it, just skip it. But I find this so important. It takes fucking 5 minutes, and I find it so important just like getting a bird's eye view of my week ahead. And it's also really important because you can start slotting the big projects in. So I have a board meeting on Thursday, and I know that I need to block out time on Wednesday to be able to review it, or I have a big launch on Monday, so I know what I need by Friday all scheduled in to like make that happen, if that makes sense. So you're just getting an awareness. It's just a nice little 5 minutes with your coffee, just writing it all out, understanding where things are, what you're doing, which friends you're meeting in the evenings, starting to get a bit of a clear understanding of where you're going to fit the important things in before you overwhelm yourself. Okay, step 3 is the to-do table method. So I talked about the to-do table in my last productivity video in a lot more depth, but essentially it's splitting your to-do list up into quick ticks, tasks, and projects, so that you have a lot better visibility of actually how things are weighted. And then what you can do with that is you can use the Eisenhower method to like prioritize them or whatever you need. But like having a to-do list that is just a list just makes no sense. Like it makes no sense. It makes no sense that you'll have all these things on the same list and it's like gonna overwhelm you when one of those things is nowhere near as important as another one, and then you're like, and then once you've done this, and it's literally going to take you 5 minutes, you probably will spend longer complaining about doing it. It's going to take you 5 minutes, and then that will really help you slot things in throughout your week, because you have really clear visibility of what you need to do and when, and you can start slotting it in, and then your life will change. You're gonna then take this method, and then you're going to use this to essentially start slotting things in throughout your week. So that's going to be in time blocks, that's going to be like a little task block each day. Any of these things, you'll get really used to it, but I promise you it will make you so much more productive and so much less overwhelmed. Okay, and then the next big point that I could not recommend more is time blocking. Time blocking is essentially based on the idea of like task batching, so like putting similar tasks together, and preparation. Those two together equal time blocking. Okay, so first things first, the freedom you'll have to time block will be completely dependent on what you do as a job. If you're a freelancer, you're probably gonna have much more freedom. If you're a student, you're probably gonna have much more freedom. If you're a mum, you're probably gonna have less freedom. If you are in a corporate job, you're probably gonna have less freedom, etc, etc, etc. But the concept is simple. As much as you can, really key word, as much as you can, divide your day into blocks of time dependent on what the type of task is. So it can be an email time block, it can be a project time block, it can be a task time block, it can be a specific time block for a specific thing. But as much as you can, divide it into time blocks. Absolute fucking disaster while I'm talking about toy blocks. Am I okay? Time blocks, my camera ran out and I had to mess up my time blocks to do something else while my camera was charging. It's been very emotional, but we're back and I'm very sweaty in case you haven't noticed. So time blocking, concept very simple. The idea is that you divide your day into blocks of time based on tasks you're doing, preferably putting similar, well, definitely putting similar tasks together, but it could be like a task block where the tasks are slightly different, but you're blitzing through all of your tasks in that block. If you have no control at all over your calls or meetings or commitments, then ideally the time around those should still be blocked, even if it's like an hour here or there. It just really helps you to do it. You don't need to do it loads in advance. You can literally do it the morning of. What really helps me though, and what I do think is important, is if you have big chunks of work to do, you time block those at the beginning of the week. So you can literally look at it in the morning and look at your schedule and see where you have blocks to fill, and rather than just like freestyling willy-nilly through your day, no, we don't do that. We plan. So if you just look at your to-do table, look at your calendar, a block for task blitz, a block for this project, a block for your emails. Just throw it all in there. It doesn't need to be any more than just that day, but going freestyle through the day is like trying to get somewhere in a car but literally not putting GPS on. If you have greater freedom around your time blocks, then base your week around your time blocks. So if you're most productive in the morning, do your hardest tasks in the morning. I mean, I'd always recommend doing the hardest task first, but as a general rule, you can literally base your life around these time blocks. So for example, for me, when I used to, now I'm like employed by TALA, so to be honest, like most of my time isn't necessarily designed by like how I would plan my time. It's based on like meetings with other people and stuff. But before that point, what I would do is usually I'd keep my mornings for blocked out work, because I know I could get my head down, and then in calls in the afternoon where I wouldn't need as much focus, like you can still work through calls with less focus, but in the afternoon my concentration is just gone, and so I try and get like my deep work done in the morning. Obviously, not everyone has the freedom to do this, goes without saying. If you don't. If you do, do. I think we have this misconception because like meetings are things that people put in our diary, or we're working with people on, that is the bulk of our work. But actually, the work you do outside of your meetings is obviously literally like the most important thing for your job and actually like delivering things. Obviously, once again, I'm talking to many people with many different jobs who are like, this isn't specific, but I'd say but in the most part, your own work that you do is incredibly important. So like the idea that we wouldn't have that blocked out in specific time, but we would have meetings, it don't make sense. No bueno. If you're a creative too, really understanding when you're most creative is so important for this. So I know, for example, my job's not all creative at all, but when I'm doing creative things like, for example, conceptualizing a campaign, it almost certainly has to be in the morning unless I really can't avoid it. Sometimes I'll even wake up 2 hours earlier to be able to make it in the morning, because I know that I'm far more creative in the morning, because once I've spent time doing emails and like admin and like I'm not creative anymore. So learning that is, I think, so important. And then it goes without saying that we need to talk about the fact that unexpected things will come in. They'll come flying in when you least expect it and you really don't need it, but they will. It's part of work, it's part of life. You're always going to have these things, and I guess all I can say about this is that ideally, if you've time blocked the rest of your time, you've been as productive and efficient and effective as possible up to this point. So when new stuff comes in, yes, it's stressful, but it's like not the end of the world. You've been as productive as possible up to that point. So if your time blocks in the afternoon go out the window, absolutely fine. Probably happens to me once or twice a week when things just come flying in and they're much more urgent, but you've been as efficient and effective as possible up to that point, so you're still better off having time blocked. It also means that your top priority work will probably have already been done, and I think that is, I mean, that's definitely one of the reasons that some people start work early, and I'm not necessarily saying do that, don't if it doesn't work for you, but you know, getting to things before other people can get to you, because other people, you can respect your own time and you can plan your own time, doesn't mean other people will respect your time, especially if you're in a more junior role. So if you can set time aside at the beginning of the day to do the most important and urgent things, by the time unexpected tasks come around, you're going to be so much better off, and so much like you've respected your time as much as possible. So fine, you have to jump onto this other thing, but at least you've had a head start in these other, you know, in the rest of your work, so not everything just flies out the window at 9 when everyone logs on and it's like, let me ruin your day. So yeah, you have to be able to be adaptable to whatever pops up. We can't help it. It's really part of work and life. What we can help is what we do outside of that time and in advance of that time, to make sure that when things do pop up, we're in as best position possible to be able to deal with it, aka having been as productive as possible, having got our most urgent tasks done. Do not stop leaving urgent and important things to last because you don't want to do them. It's shooting yourself in the foot, because then things are going to come up, or you're going to suddenly be exhausted from like racing through all the other things, and then your most important stuff hasn't got done. Eat the frog. Really good saying. Sounds strange if you don't know what it means. It means just do the most horrible thing first. Like, do the thing you're least looking forward to doing and need the most motivation for first. Then once you've done that, you're already like, the amount of fulfillment you get from doing a task that kind of really took a lot of energy to get done, once you've done that, you're already like well into your day of actually like getting those non-negotiables ticked off. I would say that if you find your schedule being thrown off a lot, like you find that around lunchtime every day so much stuff gets thrown in and it's like urgent, and then you're completely thrown off, start accounting for that. Like, if that's part of your job, it's part of your job. Once again, like, stop setting yourself up for failure, start setting yourself up for success, and block out some time when that usually comes around. So say from 3:30 till end of day, every day it's blocked out for unexpected work, and if that unexpected work doesn't come in, you just work through your tasks. I cannot express enough how if things keep happening and you don't adapt yourself to those things happening, you're just setting yourself up for failure. If they come up all throughout the day, then maybe just have like little unexpected work time blocks just here and there, like one after lunch, one right before the end of the day, one at 10 AM, and just work around that. Play around with it, but start, I would really say it's so important to adapt to what like your work is showing you it's going to be like. So I feel like I've just yelled at you for the past while. I just feel really passionately about time management. I love my systems, and I've been, definitely for the past 2 years, I've been like very resistant to like sharing them online, because it sounds very much, from someone in my position and from my privilege, it sounds very much being like, you should work harder to get somewhere I am, and it's not that at all. I would say in any position there are things you can do to make yourself more productive, effective, and better at time management. And the reason I care about that is not because life's all about work, it's because when you allow yourself to do your work better, more productively, more efficiently, and more effectively, you allow yourself to spend more time doing the other things and spend more time thinking about the other things. I really don't want to spend all my time working, and I hate spending double the time. There's nothing that fucks me off more than spending an afternoon doing something when it could have been done in 2 hours, and that's usually because I didn't plan to be doing it earlier where I knew I would be able to get it done quicker, or planning in advance where I knew I needed to ask someone something for it first. Like, that's what frustrates me. As I've said before, time management is a form of stress management, and if you can get these systems in place, you're like 10 times closer to actually being able to do your work well and in a way that leaves space for the rest of things. And before anyone has a shit fit, obviously working is not always the answer. Obviously, as I've said before, sometimes it's important just to sit the fuck down and have a break, and it's not most productive to like plow through. But these types of tools are what makes that decipherable. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk that once again no one asked for. I hope you found this helpful. If you didn't, just leave a hate comment down below. Lots of love, have a lovely day, be productive, and remember that sometimes the most productive thing is to rest, and sometimes the most self-care thing is to get the fuck up and do your fucking job, because you keep complaining about not progressing and you're also not working hard. Okay, bye! Right, sexies, it's time for some productivity planners. Let me take you through it. So first of all, last time I only had samples, so you can see how actually like how thick they are. They're over 300 pages, so it's like carrying around a 300-page hardback book. So we didn't want to make them any thicker than this. So just to take you through the colours, we have this gorgeous like light dusty pink. All of these are cloth bound. This one's like waxy hardback, like really good quality, better quality than like any planner I've had, which is great, and that's what we know I like to do. This one's called Brainwaves. It's like a lovely little blue, and it's got this gorgeous pink brainwaves. This one's called On Wednesdays We Work. And then we've got Self-Improvement. Here she is, gorgeous again, cloth bound. And then we brought back the bestseller from last time, which is navy cloth bound. Don't know why I think I'm an ASMR babes. But then we thought, why stop here? I thought, why understand when a hobby is getting out of control when you can just not acknowledge it at all? I thought for all of the people who aren't necessarily planner people but want to be able to use the method, desk pads, big productivity energy, best-selling colourway, matchy. You could even get the two, have one at the office, have one to carry around. Slay. Kimmy K wants her planner back. So this goes on your desk and it has the to-do table method. Like if you're not going to get through all of that in one day, you can just do it as like a weekly one. It's got 60 to-do tables, goes on your desk at work. You put this back, you can rip all of them off or you can keep them. You can rip the top off or you can keep it, and then you just go. If you're the type of person who just like post-its things and less of a planner person, ay caramba, she's here. If you're watching this on the day it goes live, Sunday, releasing Monday, 24 hours. 24 hours only. Monday the 17th of October. It will go live at midday until Tuesday the 18th of November. It will go live at midday. If you do not get them during that time, I cannot help you. It is a pre-order, so they will take the production time to come. They are made to order. And so if you got the last ones and you prefer these designs, you'd have to wait the pre-order time for them anyway. So, I mean, you can switch them out if you prefer, but like, you're gonna have to wait. But yeah, enjoy!